any modern, they are working in the rural hospital, 30-bedded hospital or 50-bedded hospital. Barely they are having a physician or may not be having the physician.
Yes, sir.
No expert at all. There could not be any modern gadgets with them. Such a cases, if there is a critical patient comes, can you just even to say they should go and when to refer the patient, when to settle the patient and which patient to refer in just simpler format. Can you just tell us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. आता आपण सुरुवातीलाच बघितले की 5 अर्ली साइन्स आहेत आणि 5 लेट साइन्स आहेत. We have already seen that in my presentation. So जेव्हा पेशंट येतो आपल्याला त्याचे फिजियोलॉजिकल पॅरामीटर्स, लेवल ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस डेफिनेटली असेल तर वी कॅन ऑलवेज टेक मोर इन्फॉर्मेशन फ्रॉम द पेशंट. लेवल ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस कमी असेल तर डेफिनेटली दिस पेशंट विल गो टू हायर सेंटर्स. पण बिफोर दॅट the patient to higher centers, airway maintain आहे का, can I give oxygen to this patient, blood pressure व्यवस्थित नसेल तर इंट्राकॅथ लावून निदान IV fluids चालू करून we can shift it instead of shifting the patient without applying intracath, without starting IV fluids. So IV fluids available असतात, इंट्राकॅथ available असतो. देन ऑक्सिजन सॅच्युरेशन पल्स ऑक्स तर आता सगळीकडे अवेलेबल आहेत सर. सॅच्युरेशन कमी असेल, ब्रीदिंग पॅटर्न चांगलं नसेल तर आपल्याकडे सोय नाहीये पेशंटला हा ऍडव्हान्स एअरवे घालायला आपल्याला. पण पेशंटला ओरल एअरवे घालू शकतो आपण, ऑक्सिजन सप्लिमेंट देऊ शकतो, इंट्राकॅथ लावू शकतो आणि अशा नंतर आपण इंट्राकॅथ लावून पेशंटला आपण डेफिनेटली पुढच्या हायर सेंटर्सला आपण इन्फॉर्म करून मग आपण बघायचं. प्रत्येक पेशंटचं बघून ऍटलिस्ट इमर्जन्सी आपल्याला काय अँब्युलन्स मध्ये आली, आपल्याला आता आपण बघितलं की ऍड्रेनलिन तरी द्यायला इंट्राकॅथ तर लावलेला असेल तर सोपं जाईल ना सर. सो इट विल बी इझियर फॉर अस आय फील. सो वी शुड डील विथ दिस ABCD, ऍटलिस्ट डील करून त्यांना पुढे पाठवलं पाहिजे. कारण वी नो आवर लिमिटेशन. जसं आपण म्हणतो की आपल्याकडे हायफाय गॅजेट्स नाही, नसू दे ना, पण इंट्राकॅथ लावू शकतो आपण, पल्स ऑक्स सॅच्युरेशन, ब्लड प्रेशर बघू शकतो, न्यूरोलॉजिकल ऍटलिस्ट त्याला पेनफुल स्टिम्युलस देऊन कॉन्शियसनेस लेवल तर बघू शकतो ना सर. आणि टॉर्च असतो, प्युपिल्स बघू शकतो. सो दिस आर द सिम्पल थिंग्स विच वी कॅन असेस. आणि नाही आहेत आपल्या ह्याच्यात तर वी कॅन ऑलवेज इनिशिएट द प्रायमरी ट्रीटमेंट, ऑक्सिजन देऊन, इंट्राकॅथ लावून, IV फ्लुइड्स लावून वी कॅन शिफ्ट द पेशंट.
ओके मॅडम, अजून एक क्वेश्चन असा होता, जनरल परसेप्शन आहे, मी आता डॉक्टर बोलत होतो की फ्लुइड ओव्हरलोड येतो, आपण IV फ्लुइड किती द्यायचं हा एक प्रश्न असतो. म्हणजे त्यावेळेस युरिन आउटपुट हा एकमेव मेजर आपल्याकडे असतं. एनी अदर थिंग्स that we can know whether fluid is overdose or not.
हा, ओव्हरलोड साठी आपले शरीरामध्ये आपण क्रिटिकल केअर मध्ये आम्ही 3 म्हणतो, 3 विंडोज आहेत. लंग मध्ये दिसू शकतात. तसंच लंग ऑक्सिजन सॅच्युरेशन आपल्याकडे असणार आहे, तो दॅट विल बी अगेन इन लेट. म्हणजे लंग मध्ये आपण ऑस्कल्टेट करून क्रेप्स ऐकू शकतो फ्लुइड ओव्हरलोडचे. युरिन आउटपुट आहे का बघू शकतो आणि ब्लड प्रेशर, पेरिफरीज कसे ते त्याच्यावरनं बघू शकतो. पेरिफरीजचा कलर, वेदर इट इज इन्क्रीजिंग, जर ब्लड सर्क्युलेशन एम्पर आणि न्यूरोलॉजिकली पण ब्लड प्रेशर जर इम्प्रूव्ह झालं डेफिनेटली तर ब्रेन सर्क्युलेशन पण इम्प्रूव्ह होणार. सो वी हॅव टू टेक केअर ऑफ ऑल दिस थिंग्स. आणि अजून एक सांगितलं सर, ब्लड शुगर मेजर करायला पण सोपं आहे. आपले प्रायमरी सेंटर्स मध्ये आरामात ब्लड शुगरचे मॉनिटर्स खूप छान आहेत. मी व्हिजिट केलेले आहे बऱ्याचशा प्रायमरी सेंटर्सला. मी स्वतः एमओ होते सर प्रायमरी. तर आपण ब्लड शुगर्स घेऊ शकतो आरामात आणि किट छोटे आहेत, मस्त आहेत ते.
ओके मॅडम, थँक्यू. Thanks for your nice presentation again. So we will move to our next round, that is of question answer round, which may include or may not include the ICU management, patient management. We can also include about the viral pneumonia H1N1, which is a very endemic in Pune, and now the H3N2, which is a very prevalent and hot topic across the Maharashtra. जो की आता विधानसभा सुद्धा गाजवतोय H3N2. या संबंधीचे काही कोणाचे क्वेश्चन असतील तर कृपया चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये क्वेश्चन टाका. will try to answer with the help of experts all over the Maharashtra. I request you. आणि याच्या व्यतिरिक्त काही क्वेश्चन आन्सर नंतर जर समजा काही क्वेश्चन कोणाचे राहिले तर दॅट यू कॅन ईमेल अस. SHRCचा ईमेल आयडी सुद्धा आम्ही चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये देतोय. तुम्ही आम्हाला क्वेश्चन सेंड करा किंवा तुमचे टॉपिक काय असेल सेंड करा. ऍज वेल ॲज तुम्हाला पुढच्या वेबिनारसाठी कुठला टॉपिक पाहिजे हे सुद्धा तुम्ही सजेशन दिले तर वी कॅन गो फॉर दॅट टॉपिक ऑल्सो.
Before that, Dr. Sushma, there is a question in chat back. What is mean by Glasgow Coma Scale? Dr. Sushma?
हाँ सर, ग्लासगो कोमा स्केल हा स्पेसिफिकली न्यूरो पेशंट साठी आहे आणि त्याच्यामध्ये वी जस्ट सी द लेवल ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस. सो व्हॉट डू वी सी इज रिस्पॉन्स बघतो, आपल्या मोटर रिस्पॉन्स बघतो. सो इट इज इन्क्लूडिंग मोटर रिस्पॉन्स, verbal response, whether the patient is responding to or he is able to comprehend with us, and response बघून मग accordingly E1 that is eye opening बघतो आपण, मोटर रिस्पॉन्स आणि वर्बल रिस्पॉन्स हे 3 चेक करतो. इट इज टोटल स्कोर 15 असतो. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू दॅट वी कॅल्क्युलेट अँड आपण पेशंटच्या लेवल ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस प्रमाणे आणि रिस्पॉन्स प्रमाणे हा स्कोर देतो आपण पेशंटला. And if it is less than definitely 8 it is worrisome. पण ड्राउझी पेशंट असेल 10 पेक्षा असेल तर we need to take care of it. Okay, thank you.
थोडक्यात ग्लासगो कोमा स्केल म्हणजे मेंटल स्टॅटस. सपोज 11 to 14 असेल तर किंवा 12 to 13 12च्या वर असेल तर तुम्ही कदाचित वॉर्डात मॅनेज करू शकता. पण 12च्या खाली असेल तर तुम्ही स्टेप डाऊन किंवा आयसीयू कडे मूव्ह झालेलं कधी पण चांगलं. त्याचा अर्थ पेशंटला मॉनिटरिंग लागणार आहे. आणि लेस दॅन 8 असेल तर पेशंट हॅज टू बी इन आयसीयू अँड माइट बी इन इंट्युबेशन अँड व्हेंटिलेटर. So Glasgow Coma Scale guides you regarding the admission, where you should manage the patient and how you should manage the patient. Now, next question I have seen in a chat box is regarding this influenza. आपल्याला सगळ्यांना माहिती की influenza is rampant. So can we keep it in the same ICU? So it's a very good question. Now I will tell you. Ideally, there are 3 types of the infection: airborne, droplet, and contact. Okay, contacts are generally the MRSA and all these things. Tuberculosis is airborne. COVID was airborne, and influenza is also airborne. So airborne infection has a tendency to spread very quickly. So ideally, they should be in an isolation ward or ICU. But we don't have that luxury in India to have ICU, negative pressure, positive pressure, isolation wards except the COVID. It was very limited situation. So what I will advise, what we do, we isolate them. That means the group of the influenza patient at the one side of the ICU or in one wing of the ICU or in one ward of the ICU. That is ideal. So in Indian setting, even in Rubiol, what we do, we keep them in the one setting, try to separate it out from the rest of the patient. So generally airborne or droplet patient should be isolated from the rest of the patient, whether you do it in a negative pressure or you do it in a separate ICU or you do it in a separate place is your choice, because whatever the available resources you have to use. Second question was regarding the antibiotic, how you will prevent the antibiotic resistance in ICU. Anand, will you please answer this question? There was a question in chat box, how you will prevent the antimicrobial resistance in ICU. Anand, you have to unmute yourself.
Yes. So this is very hot topic regarding antibiotic resistance. World over, we have been discussing about antimicrobial resistance. And they say that India is the main culprit, actually, in the sense that we are misusing antibiotic over the counter. Our practitioners are prescribing, our patients are self-taking most of the medicines. So in context with the present situation also, I think most of the viral illnesses, the OPD patient who is walking, talking, and he is having just fever, should not take a self-prescribed antibiotic of any form to prevent the resistance. So basically, he should just take paracetamol, rest, and control of fever. That is required for most of the viral illness. If it is severe, let the doctor decide when to start the antibiotic.
No, Anand, you haven't heard the question properly. The question is how you will prevent the antimicrobial resistance in ICU.
In
so infection control. So
okay.
they target must be the infection control.
Right. So resistance in the ICU are the simple practices. First, you start with prevention. So what you do is you use your hand hygiene practices in the ICU. You see whether what organisms are common in your ICU. So what is in tertiary care in my ICU may not be in the level 1 or level 2. So you have to decide which antibiotics to be used, what are the common organisms in, and what is the duration of treatment. Do not prescribe unnecessarily if it is not indicated. So you should have a complete plan of antibiotic policy for each and individual ICU. So about that also, there are national guidelines, which I think ICCM and Dr. Jirpe was a member of it. So has been published regarding the use of antibiotics. So I think that comes handy, and then you have to decide each patient, and you have to de-escalate it. You have to use the right dose and right drugs, so all these principles, and keep on doing and keep on auditing that. So that will help to prevent the resistance in the long run.
Because see, antibiotic resistance or antibiotic stewardship is a dynamic process. It's not a one-time affair. Continuously, believe me, every day, every hour, every duty shifts, months, weeks, years, you have to just work on hand hygiene, minimum intervention, minimum time spent in ICU, antibiotic, judicious use of the antibiotic, less number of the antibiotic, less days of the antibiotic, less cost of the antibiotic. So many things comes under that umbrella of the antibiotic stewardship, which will help to reduce your antibiotic stewardship. Not by discussion, not by the posters is going to come. It should come from inside the heart of the every intensivist. Now, next question, Dr. Sushma, you are a right person to answer that. You had a recently viral infection. So how you differentiate in between the H1N1 and S3N2? Because I know you are the one of the front worker doing the H1N1 infection in 2009. And we have seen the hundreds of the patients. And now it is S3N2. How you will differentiate, or the symptoms are same, and how one should diagnose it?
So symptoms wise, if you say patient will have myalgia is present, definitely. In both times, I had very severe myalgia. To start with sore throat as such, yes, they have given it as a primary symptom, but in some cases, including myself, sore throat was late to start. Initially, I had severe myalgia for 2-3 days, which is very weird. You just cannot, it gets diverted. It's not that you have done a lot of exercise or you have done a lot of work, but it tells you that something is, entire body does not pain any time. So myalgia is severe, fever, low grade fever, then it goes up, high grade fever. So it might go to 103 also. In children's, it is more higher. Then again, sore throat, running nose can be there. Then these are the various things which will help us to pick up the symptoms. I could not personally differentiate between, as you said, COVID or recent wave. Both appear to me as same, but breathlessness, if patient have a severe COVID, which they have ignored, breathlessness might have been more that time, but this time it is just fever, myalgia, running nose.
So you rightly said, Dr. Sushma. Basically, S3N2 is a subtype of the H1N1. There are the influenza A and influenza B. Influenza B, we are tolerating, enjoying, nothing else. Influenza A came into the picture in 2009. H1N1 was more disastrous, I will say, because it was involving the lungs, low respiratory infection. So that is like a COVID. COVID Delta was the lungs and Omicron was the upper respiratory infection. H1N1 is worse because it involves the ARDS, lungs, respiratory failure, ventilator, hundreds of the patients on ventilator. That's why it was more serious as compared to this subtype. SCN2 is subtype. I will say it's like a Omicron of the COVID, milder version of the H1N1. Most of the patients, majority of the patients are coming with the upper respiratory infection. That means the cough, breathlessness, shortness of the breath, or dry cough, fever, myalgia, body ache, sore throat. So typical viral infection. Okay, how to diagnose? It's season, so it's very easy to diagnose. If someone comes to me, I say either influenza or COVID. Now, the question is whether STN2 is serious. In few cases where the patient is immunocompromised, like he's on chemotherapy, the patient is on the CKD, dialysis, patient is on the steroid for various disease, age is more than 65, diabetes is uncontrolled. These patients have a high risk of developing the lower respiratory infection. They may come up with the pneumonia, and whatever the mortality in STN2 is related with the comorbidities. If I am not wrong, even viral community-acquired bacterial pneumonia, the mortality is more with the comorbidities, not with the pneumonia itself. So always remember, whenever someone comes to you, म्हणजे तो जर तरुण असेल, be assured, most of time it will be the upper respiratory infection. पण the moment 60च्या वर गेलेला असेल, कोमॉर्बिडिटीज असेल, अल्कोहोल अब्युजर असेल, स्मोकर असेल, ओबेस असेल, तर ते पेशंट्स थोडेसे सिरियसली घ्यायचे. नाही नाही तुला इन्फ्लुएन्झा तुझ्या घरी, असं नाही करायचं. ते जस्ट त्यांचा एक्सरे करा, त्यांचे शुगर्स करा, त्यांचे युरिक करा, त्यांचं बीपी बघा, हे सगळं बघून मग त्याला ट्रीटमेंट विल कम टू द ट्रीटमेंट पार्ट. सो major difference in between the H1N1 was a mainly lung disease was involved. STN2 is the upper respiratory. That was a grossly, but it may cause the pneumonia in few cases. Second thing, COVID. Now, when the COVID pandemic is there, your differential diagnosis has to be the COVID. You cannot say that the COVID is gone. कोविड पॅन्डेमिक आहे म्हणजे सगळ्यांनी मास्क वापरायला पाहिजे. कोविड डायग्नोसिस तुमच्या डिफरन्शियल मध्ये यायलाच पाहिजे. तर इफ एनी वन इज कमिंग विथ द fever, cough, shortness of the breath, body ache, malaise, H1N1, STN2 or COVID. आणि हे तिन्ही कसे डायग्नोस होतात? थ्रोट स्वॅबनी. सो वाय यू आर बॉदरिंग अबाउट द डिफरन्शियल डायग्नोसिस? सो ओमायक्रॉन आणि डेल्टा मध्ये जो फरक आहे तोच H1N1 आणि STN2 मध्ये फरक आहे. सिंपल. नाउ the next question I will answer and then I will come back to the next question was how to diagnose. Diagnosis is simple. We are doing the at present the PCR for the COVID and STN2 and H1N1. Take the nasal or nasopharyngeal swab and do the PCR technique. There are antigen tests for COVID are available, so that comes within 15 minutes. At present, we are not doing the antigen test for the STN2. So within 15 minutes, you will not get the report. You will get the report after a few hours with the PCR. PCR technique is same, the VTM. That what the question was, one of the question was whether that is the same, it is a VTM. We use the same swab. In one swab, you can ask the lab for doing the H1N1, STN2 and the COVID. They will give the report by the evening. So that is regarding the investigation. Now, Anand.
Yes,
so the next question is, we have used the oseltamivir very effectively in H1N1. Yes, what is your opinion regarding the oseltamivir in STN2?
Yes, sir.
Sir, this is question asked by the physician of the district hospital.
Yes, sir.
Managing the ICU.
Yes, sir.
Kiran Kalati is asked a question about the oseltamivir.
Yes,
okay,
sir. Yeah. So oseltamivir is definitely is an antiviral agent. Now that when to start is very important. So if you start it early, is like in H1N1 also, when the patient received early phase of illness, when the viral application has just started, so that time the antiviral will work. And oseltamivir, we apart from Western counterpart, we have used double doses in H1N1, like instead of 75 BD, 150 BD. Dr. Kadam has done the research also on that. So the main thing is start early. It works in influenza A. So H3N2 and H1N1 both are influenza A type. So it should work, but it should be started early with 75 milligram BD doses. At the same time, we should look for the side effects like hallucinations or some delirium. It can cause in certain patients. Suicidal tendencies also have been reported. So if the severity of illness is high, if the patient has comorbid illnesses, if the patient is going to progress in the severe kind of disease, early starting of oseltamivir will definitely be beneficial. In young patient who is OPD patient who don't have any comorbidities, may not be a good candidate to start if we are thinking that way. I think Dr. Zirpe sir will be better opinion for this.
So, Anand, what you rightly say, that it is a subtype of the H1N1, so acetamide work. Again, the double dose acetamide 150 BD was in ARDS, not in a severe, please.
Yeah,
so 75 BD is the standard dose for 5 days for the SCN2 also. If unfortunately patient goes into the ARDS, then so Anand, in addition to this question, that is very frequently asked question, what is your opinion about giving antibiotic along with the antiviral in SCN2 or in viral pneumonia?
Again, it is a very tricky and individualized decision, I will say. Your patient with H1N1 or H3N2 comes to the ICU with comorbidities, with diabetes, with hypertension. We know that there is a high possibility of going into secondary infection. So this secondary bacterial infection of Streptococcus pneumoniae is very common. Staph is common. So this definitely will push the patient to the death. So in such situation, you should not think of antibiotic stewardship here, where in a vulnerable patient. But the patient is a OPD patient. He doesn't have anything. He just have fever. You can manage with paracetamol and not to prescribe any macrolide or any other drug. So it is very clear. Inpatient, in hospital with comorbidities, yes, there are guidelines. There are the antibiotic is must to prevent the secondary bacterial infection in these cases. And in outpatient with no comorbidities, normal, I will not prescribe antibiotic along with it.
Simple. I will tell you the very simple formula. If the patient has a mild viral infection on OPD basis, no antiviral, no antibiotic. If the patient has a SCN2 and the mild just symptoms are going within 24 hours, no antibiotic. Now, if the patient has a viral infection, patient has a diabetes and hypertension and comorbid condition, and patient is a moderate oxygen saturation borderline, give antibiotic. They are always a chance of developing the secondary infection and they may deteriorate. So moderate to severe on your OPD basis, you can prescribe the antibiotic along with the viral influenza positive. Inpatient, patient is in a ward, admitted, may require the small dose of oxygen, give antibiotic. Patient is in ICU, antibiotic has to be added with your anti-influenza because these patients are very high chances they will acquire the secondary infection, or sometimes they are coexisting secondary infection and they may deteriorate on the 4th or 5th day because of the sepsis and the multi-organ failure. So very clear guideline, mild influenza, no treatment, symptomatic treatment. Mild influenza with comorbidities, antiviral plus antibiotic. Inpatient in a ward, antibiotic with antiviral. In ICU, antibiotic in antiviral. These are the all international guidelines for the influenza and this thing. Now, Dr. Sushma, Dr. Deepali Kharath asked you the question, what's the role of the steroid?
Actually, steroids for present waveform, I don't think so. Steroid has any role. We have not seen, but associated parat illness असेल, and if you have to see whether patient is in pediatric, we have to think of it and rule out. But as such, present wave law, I don't think so. You can add if you have any about the कोमॉर्बिडिटी असलेल्या लोकांना किंवा आयसीयू मधले ऍडमिट तिथे पण आपण वी शुड थिंक लेट ॲज सच स्टेरॉइड फॉर प्रेझेंट वेव्ह आय डोंट थिंक सो वी शुड
मॅडम बेसिक अझम्पशन काय सर मॅडम त्याच्या पाठीमागे बेसिक अझम्पशन काय आहे की स्टेरॉइड द्यायचं किंवा नाही द्यायचं तुम्ही जे म्हणताय की आय डोंट थिंक सो
नाही सर म्हणजे ऍड नाही करायला आता सर बोलत आहेत थांबा सर
सर गाईडलाईन कशा कोविड मध्ये आपण स्टेरॉइड्स इन पेशंटला देतो पण SCN2 मध्ये किंवा एनी व्हायरल इलनेस मध्ये देयर इज नो रोल ऑफ द स्टेरॉइड वेदर इट इज माइल्ड डिसीज और सिव्हिअर डिसीज और विथ कॉम्प्लिकेशन विथ और विदाउट कोमॉर्बिडिटी. This is what the international and national guidelines say.
म्हणजे ऍड नाही करायचं
नाही there is no role of the steroids. There is no role of the steroids.
तर एक क्वेश्चन आहे चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये is there any difference clinically difference we can differentiate between the viral and bacterial pneumonia because in the periphery as you know we are having the very short of the batteries of the laboratory tests.
Correct.
So clinically how can you differentiate between the viral and the bacterial pneumonia? This is the first one. And secondly, what will be the radiological or the respiratory picture between the viral and bacterial pneumonia?
Simple. You ask the history, you will get the diagnosis. First thing is the seizure. If you are in a flu season and somebody comes with a dry cough, fever, this thing, it is flu, viral. Somebody has the travel history, ask them particularly, it is most likely viral. So the history gives you the 99% diagnosis. Sir, please, COVID is also clinical diagnosis. We never require the antigen and anti-PCR to prove that. Clinically, you just ask the question here. During pandemic, somebody comes with the cough, fever, and sore throat. It is COVID. I don't want any differential diagnosis. So there is no confusion. Now we know that influenza is all over the Maharashtra growing up. So anybody comes with the fever, cough, myalgia, sore throat is a viral infection. After 3-5 days, he will end it with the bacterial this thing. So there is no, there is clear differentiated travel history, seasonal and flu-like symptoms, like which I say. No, bacterial has a very particular symptom. If somebody is coming with the cough with the expectorant, he said that he has a lot of expectorant is coming out. Most likely it is bacterial, because in bacterial infection, you get the more and more expectorant. In generally viral infection, you get the dry cough or mucoid. Sometimes you get the greenish this thing. But if somebody is coughing out purulent and more amount, it is likely to be bacterial. Okay, you take the history. Suppose say that, okay, sir, last week I had a fever and cough and all these things, and I took rest and I joined, and now he's coming with the cough with expectoration, high grade fever after the 5 days. Likely to be it is bacterial. Probably he acquired the secondary bacterial infection. So like that, I always say the backbone is your history. How good you are in a history take. How good you are in listening the patient. Listen to the patient. Don't jump on. Don't jump on to the conclusion. And second thing, all these viral illnesses are clinical diagnosis. We don't need PCR. We don't need XHS. These are clinical diagnoses. Only for confirmation, I need X-ray. If I am suspecting the pneumonia, then I need X-ray. Otherwise, I don't need X-ray. It is not the knee-jerk reflex advice XHS for everyone. Saturation is 96. Patient is not having breathlessness. Patient heart rate is 90. BP is 130/90. Patient has upper respiratory infection. Why I should do the XHS? I have stethoscope, ausculted. There are no cramps. There is no wheeze. There is no bronchial breathing. Why I should? Now, probably we are forgetting the art of listening to the heart sounds and the stethoscope for this thing. 99%. I always tell everyone that even I am working in a Ruby Hall, we don't need XHS or the PCR to diagnose. These are all majority time clinical diagnosis. And if at all, the classic bacterial viral pneumonia differentiation on X-ray is very simple. Rapidly progressing and almost whole lung will be opaque. Might be yesterday or there might be the small, and next day it will be the big upper lobe, lower lobe pneumonia. They are viral. Viral pneumonias grow fast. They go to the entire lobe might be the white, sometimes bilateral whitish will be. And the most important, they quickly resolve. It is a time-bound process. Viral illness is always time-bound process. Fifth day, majority of the viruses infections are under control. So on 5th day, if you take the X-ray, and X-ray will be the black. So no magic. We are not magician. We haven't done anything. That viral illness is under control. So by definition, viral pneumonias are the rapidly progressing, very fast becoming white and fastly resolving. That is what the radiological is.
Sir, any fancy role like CT score and all these things?
No. Again, I'm saying came out of the COVID. We came out of the Delta. In COVID, I will go by the COVID. Even in today, somebody comes with the hypoxia, I will do the HRCT. That's all. Otherwise, I will do HRCT. Because the moment there is a hypoxia, that means there is a lung involvement. Lung involvement is Delta. If there is no hypoxia, it is Omicron. If there is no hypoxia, it is a influenza. The moment you came across the saturation less than 92%, you ask for the first thing X-ray. If you are not getting anything, you do the HRCT. So simple and straightforward.
Okay, sir. My last question is that how much percentage of the H3N2 person require the ICU management? As like in the COVID, we had thought of the 5% to 12% required the ICU management. What about the H3N2?
Honestly, it's too early to comment because just now we started getting the patient. Only those who are with the comorbidities and immunocompromised patients require the ICU. So majority of the patients with the H3N2 who require the ICU are immunocompromised patients. I haven't seen in last 1 month, if I have seen the hundreds of the patients, the young chap is coming with the H3N2 admitted in the ICU. No. all age more than 65, uncontrolled diabetes, on chemotherapy, CML, cancer. These patients are only coming to the ICU. Parkinsonism, age of 90. So as such, even influenza can push them in ICU. Why to blame that STN2? Even your regular influenza can push them in ICU. So the mortality is more in only comorbidity and the high-risk patient, not in a younger patient. So no need to panic. No need to spread a word of that this is something dangerous or it is a pandemic. No, it's a regular influenza. It is subtype. Only as we have to now learn to live with the viruses. There is no alternative. We have to follow those again, the face mask, social distance. So simple. If someone is ill in your family and suspect a virus, isolate him. 99% job will be over. If you have the aged grandparents in there, don't allow him to go there. Use the mask. Social distancing, use mask, and hand hygiene. These are the only three things which we all should now henceforth throughout the life we should follow this.
तर आपण कोविडच्या सुरुवातीच्या काळामध्ये COVID-19 आणि H1N1 हे दोन्ही टेस्ट एकत्र करून रिपोर्ट देत होतो पहा. एनआयव्हीची रिपोर्ट स्पेशल असेल तसं आता हे 2+1=3 H3N2 असे ऍड करायची गरज आहे का?
हो, ऐका ना, ते तुमचं क्लिनिकल डायग्नोसिस आहे ना. इफ यू आर सस्पेक्टिंग कोविड, से कोविड. इफ यू आर सस्पेक्टिंग इन्फ्लुएंजा, H1N1 and H3N2 comes in a one report. Suppose you want all viral panel, then you can get even another 8 viruses also along with that. So see the cost. Every investigation and every your fear and suspect will increase the cost. So I think spend 5 times more with the patient, you will get that what you are heading towards.
Okay, sir. So what is the worst complication of H3N2?
Pneumonia. Any ideas? See, any virus or bacteria, the worst is the lung involvement. The ones they cause the pneumonia, they can cause the ARDS, and the mortality is more in pneumonia and ARDS. So the worst complication is the low respiratory involvement, that is the lung involvement, pneumonia. And if the more the patient immunocompromised, chances of the dying are more.
Okay. Question?
Someone asked that can COVID and influenza same time possible? They are coexisting before also. So you have to rate that which one is the more dreadful. But if both are mild, why to worry? Treat them, but treatment remains same, symptomatic, paracetamol, steam inhalation, and all these regular treatment. If they require ICU, then go ahead with the HRCT. HRCT will give you the, then go ahead with the remdesivir and this. Then you need the particular diagnosis. If they coexist and in ICU and hypoxic, then I need the very detailed diagnosis to differentiate in between them, because for COVID now there is a proven therapy, remdesivir, steroids, and the low molecular heparin. So that may help me to early control. एक क्वेश्चन आहे त्याच्यामध्ये की सिंगल ICU आहे हॉस्पिटलमध्ये आणि तिथे तुम्हाला इन्फ्लुएन्झाचे पेशंट आणि नॉन इन्फ्लुएन्झाचे पेशंट ठेवायची वेळ जर आली तर ही गाईडलाईन्स आर देयर. तुम्हाला सांगितलं ना, ह्याच्या गाईडलाईन्स खूप सिम्पल. त्यांना आयसोलेट करा. म्हणजे त्यांनी काय सांगितलं, आयसोलेट करा. आयसोलेट म्हणजे एका रूम मध्ये नाही टाका, त्यांना एका साईडला पण ठेवू शकतो. सपोज माझ्याकडे 15 बेडची ICU आहे, तर 50 म्हणजे 10 to 15 बेड्स आय विल अलोकेट देम. सो आय विल कीप देम असाइड फ्रॉम द रेस्ट ऑफ द पेशंट. त्याला कोहोटिंग म्हणतो आपण. जस्ट कोहोट देम ॲट द वन प्लेस. जर तुमच्याकडे सेपरेट ICU असेल, फ्लोर चेंज करा, सेपरेट ICU करा. दॅट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हॉट लक्झरी यू हॅव इन युअर हॉस्पिटल. ओके. नाही, सिंगल ICU असेल आणि जागा नाहीये, तिथे ठेवायची वेळ आली तर डिस्टन्स शुड बी मोर दॅन 6 feet ऑफ लाईक दॅट. Those are very standard guidelines, sir. In between the bed, there has to be the 6 feet distance. And mask. So use the mask separate at the one corner of the ICU. Everybody should use the mask. Hygiene. It will keep them under control. We are keeping it in the regular ICU. We are not having this. We are not isolating the influenza patient to the isolation ICU or what. They are in the regular ICUs with the isolation facilities. ICU संबंधी माझा वैयक्तिक प्रश्न आहे की ICU वेगवेगळ्या ICU मध्ये वेगवेगळ्या म्हणजे प्रोटोकॉल फॉलो केले जातात. काही ठिकाणी फक्त हँडवॉश आहे, काही ठिकाणी पूर्णपणे किट घालून पाठवलं जातं, काही ठिकाणी शूज अलाउ केले जात नाही. मी आता हिंदुजामध्ये गेलो तर तिथे फक्त मला शूज अलाउड आहेत, तुम्ही तर पुतळाही दाखवला आता, आणि काही ठिकाणी फक्त हँडवॉश आहे. म्हणजे व्हॉट इज द
पर्टिक्युलर थिंग टू डू.
ऍक्च्युली
माझा
सांगू
आयसीयू
का
सेटअप मला सुरू करायचं आहे एखाद्या आरएच मध्ये, तर विच प्रोटोकॉल आय शुड फॉलो?
सर सिम्पल, ह्याच्या सगळ्या गाईडलाईन्स आहेत सर. काय इंडिया इज अ डायव्हर्स कंट्री, इंडिया इज अ सो मेनी रिलिजन्स. इंडिया इव्हन काही मंदिरात चप्पल बाहेर काढायला लावतात, काही मंदिरामध्ये ड्रेसच चेंज करायला लावतात, काही मंदिरात आंघोळ करूनच जायचं असतं, काही मंदिरात काही लोकांना अलावच नसतं. तसंच सर आहे, त्याला काही करू शकत नाही. डायव्हर्स कंट्री आहे. गाईडलाईन्स आहेत, गाईडलाईन्स आहेत,
कंट्रोलसाठी
गाईडलाईन्स आहेत. प्रत्येकाच्या हँड हायजीनच्या गाईडलाईन्स आहेत. शू कव्हर म्हणजे देर आर इव्हिडन्स बेस म्हणतो आपण. काही ठिकाणी इव्हिडन्स म्हणतो की शू कव्हर घातल्याने इनफॅक्ट इन्फेक्शन रेट वाढतो, कारण तुम्ही काढताना त्याला हात लावता आणि नंतर तुम्ही हँडवॉश करत नाही. आमचं सिंपल म्हणणं आहे की एवढं ऑलरेडी आयसीयूत इन्फेक्शन असतं, तुम्ही शूज मधनं किती घेऊन येणार आहे? मला फक्त क्लिनिंग लागतं की तुम्ही चिखलातनं पाय फक्त आयसीयूत आणू नका, कारण मला ते डस्टिंग करायला प्रॉब्लेम येतो. माझा तेवढा स्टाफ आहे का मला बघायला लागतो. अदरवाईज तुमच्या शूज मधनं इन्फेक्शन यायचं मी कशाला बॉदर करू? म्हणजे सिंपल सांगू का, तुम्ही हँडवॉश करून जर पेशंटला हात लावला तर काय प्रॉब्लेम आहे? सो द मेन इज हँड हायजीन, मेन इज हँड वॉशिंग, मेन इज डिस्टन्सिंग, मेन इज how you follow your antimicrobial policies, how you follow your justification for this thing. So these will control your infection, not the shoe cover or those fancy dresses, or like for example स्क्रब अलीकडे कोविड नंतर खूप फॅमिलियर झालं. त्याचे बरेच रिझन होते, पण स्क्रबची आयडिया काय आहे? आपण जे टाय आणि ॲप्रन घालतो, ऍक्च्युली दे आर फॉर सेल्फ प्रोटेक्शन. ॲप्रन का घालतो की आपल्या अंगावर काही पेशंटचे बॉडी फ्लुइड वगैरे, पण आपण ॲप्रन रोज धुतो का? नाही धुवत. आपल्या डॉक्टरांचे ॲप्रन बघितले तर एक एक महिना त्याच्यावर इतके कलर असतात, तर बॅक्टेरिया किती असतील. टाय घालतो का? मी पूर्वी टाय घालून यायचो, मला वाटायचं खूप मोठा डॉक्टर आहे, पण नंतर लक्षात आलं की टाय मी धुवतच नाही 2-2 महिने, ड्रायक्लीनच करत नाही. सो विच वन इज मोर इन्फेक्टेड, टाय, ॲप्रन or the patient and the patient's relative? So ideally doctor should have in a simple scrub. म्हणजे त्याने काय होतं की, आणि स्क्रब डेली वॉश करायला पाहिजे, ते पण डेली वॉश करायला पाहिजे. सो सिंपल आहे ना, तुम्ही युनिफॉर्मिटी ठेवा. नाही तर असं नको की प्रत्येकाने वेगवेगळा कलर घेऊन आयसीयू मध्ये काम करतो. आयडेंटिफाय तर ह्याला पाहिजे, ब्रदर कोण आहे, सिस्टर कोण आहे, डॉक्टर कोण आहे. तर तुम्ही कलर कोडिंग द्या, स्क्रब वापरा, हँड वॉश करा. म्हणजे कोविडने आपल्याला खूप चांगल्या गोष्टी शिकवून गेलेल्या. आपण कोविडला खूप दोष देतो, पण कोविडने ह्याच गोष्टी आपल्याला शिकवलेल्या आहेत, छोट्या छोट्या गोष्टी. कोणी डॉक्टर इंटेन्सिव्हिस्टला कोण ओळखत होतं का कोविडच्या आधी? हँड हायजीनला जर सांगितलं तर किती नाराज व्हायचे डॉक्टर, की मला सांगतो मी 50 वर्षाचा डॉक्टर. अरे हो बरोबर, पण तुझ्या हातावर बॅक्टेरिया येत नाही, कुणी सांगितलं? म्हणजे असं आहे का की यंग डॉक्टरांच्या हातावर फक्त बॅक्टेरिया बसतात आणि ओल्ड लोकांच्या ह्याच्यावर बॅक्टेरिया बसत नाही? अजून सुद्धा डॉक्टरांचं हँड हायजीन पर्सेंटेज खूप लो आहे. सो सिंपल आहे, मिनिमम आपण जसं म्हणतो ना, मिनिमम इंटरव्हेन्शन, मिनिमम हे, तसं डॉक्टरांनी पण कमीत कमी ह्याच्यामध्ये किंवा डेली वॉश करा. तुम्हाला ॲप्रन घालायचं आहे ना, डेली वॉश पाहिजे. आता तो गोष्ट आता काय सांगू तुम्हाला.
स्क्रब घालून सर गावभर फिरतात लोक सर. इव्हन कलेक्टर ऑफिस
हॉस्पिटलमध्ये पण मी तेच सांगितलं नाही, इमेज चेंज करायला पाहिजे की ॲप्रन म्हणजे डॉक्टर. जे मी मध्ये एक लेक्चरमध्ये पण म्हटलं ना, की कुणाला ते ॲप्रन घालून उभं केलं ती न्यूज रिपोर्टर पण म्हणतो डॉक्टर आहे. त्याला हे कळत नाही की आतला खरंच डॉक्टर आहे का. त्यामुळे ह्या गोष्टी आता हळूहळू चेंज होत आहेत. बघू, ऍटलीस्ट आपल्याला रिकॉग्निशन तर आले आयसीयूला आणि डॉक्टरांना, ते महत्वाचं आहे.
क्वेश्चन आहेत का बरं?
I think we have answer. Can you please elaborate the differential diagnosis for STN or all influenza viral illnesses, prevent microbial resistance?
सर मला वाटतं क्वेश्चन झालेले आहेत. ऍज अ रुटीन प्रॅक्टिस आपण जी प्री टेस्टला पेपर दिला होता, तो आपण इन शॉर्ट थोडा डिस्कस करूया सर.
हो चालेल,
लोकांनी सुरू करावी असं मी सगळ्यांना सांगतो, आणि आपण इकडे डिस्कशन सुरू करू.
आनंद, एक सजेशन आहे की तुझ्या सीपीआर गाईडलाईन्स शेअर कर म्हणून. यू शेअर विथ देम सो दे विल डिस्ट्रीब्यूट अमंग्स.
या सर व्हिडिओ जर मिळाला असेल तर वी लाईक टू सी द व्हिडिओ ऑफ एडी आणि सगळ्या सीपीआरचे.
ठीक आहे, पाठवून देतो सर तुम्हाला कलेक्ट करून. Anybody sharing? We are not able to get anything on the screen.
We'll give 5 minutes to them, and then we'll discuss the test results and
Okay,
the questions.
No, I thought the screen you are displaying. Okay.
It is given in the chat box, sir. Dr. Kapil sir. 5 minutes का discuss करो. चेक करा उसके तो ऊपर करो कितने रिस्पॉन्स आएगा. 5 मिनट में देखेंगे. वेट लागतो का 10 मिनिटं लागतात. आणि आपण ट्रान्झॅक्शन Jitpe sir. Sir, I am audible.
बोला.
हाँ सर तुम्ही स्क्रीन शेअर करताय. आपले पोस्टचे क्वेश्चन होते. हो. ते 1 by 1 सर तुम्ही थोडंसं आम्हाला ऍडवाइस करा त्या संबंधी.
First 5 Anand will answer. Anand, please go ahead.
Anand sir.
Yeah. So first question was what is the recommendation BLS basic life support sequence for 2020 guidelines, because these were changed earlier in 2005 it was ABC, then they came with changes and found that before airway compression is more important. So once you have identified a patient with cardiac arrest, first is to begin with chest compression followed by airway and followed by breathing. So CAB is the option. CAB. First question number 1.
So number 1 is the answer.
Yeah, CAB. Next is, I am not able to see. Yeah. So what are the basic life support steps used for adults? So as I said, cardiac arrest can occur anywhere. So first and foremost thing important is the assessment of the victim, whether he is unresponsive by tapping on the shoulder to see for the respiration, agonal respiration, and absent breathing. So assessing the victim. Once you assess unresponsive victim, you go for activating the EMS. So you call the 108 number, which we are using nowadays, or whatever local number in the hospital. Get an AED, importance of AED I told, then checking the pulse and beginning the CPR. So it is the D option, which is correct. So the sequence steps are described by assessing, activating EMS, and D option D. Coming to next, compression ventilation ratio. So initially, when they started in 1973, it was 5:1. Then they came to 15:2. And now the latest guideline says that 30:2. So 30 chest compression and 2 ventilation cycles has to be given so that the heart rate is around 100 to 110 per minute. So the answer here is B, 30:2. Question number 4, which are the following treated with defibrillation shock? As I told, the shockable rhythm are 2. One is ventricular fibrillation and one is ventricular tachycardia, pulseless. But here it is with pulse, so it is not shockable. So VF, ventricular fibrillation always pulseless, it is cardiac arrest rhythm. So VF has to be defibrillated. Sinus tachycardia, treat the cause, so you should not treat that. Question number 5, asystole. As I told, asystole is a common rhythm, a terminal rhythm, where you confirm that it's a flat line protocol. You see that patient has straight line. So it is non-shockable rhythm. So you start with CPR, you give ventilation, you give epinephrine, but accept defibrillation. So you should not shock the asystole. C is the accept. That is the answer, C. I think
I will answer the next 5. Already I answered it during my lecture. So what are all are true except the in a classification? Actually, this was some error in projecting. The last option was a physician. It was written in original. So level 3 generally ICU will have the trained doctors and the qualified doctors. So that's why the D was the right answer. Next, there is some printing typo or whatever the copy paste. Next, please. Now, regarding the location of the ICU, there is a lot of myth that the ICU should be at the ground floor. Ideally, ICU should not be on the ground floor. So the accept answer is ground floor. This is the wrong answer. This is not the evidence base. Next, please. Already I explained regarding the bed strength of the ideal beds. Ideal should be the in between less than 12 to 5. But when the efficiency may be good with the total number crosses 12 and 15 is the wrong answer. That means the right answer, but it is a wrong one, because ideally it should be manageable at 12 to 15 bed. It should not cross that. So it becomes more. So if suppose you have 50 bedded critical care in your hospital, so divide into the 3 ICUs, 15, 15, 15. So it will be easy to manage. I don't want to make the further complicated, but ideally it will be easy to manage. If someone says that I manage the 48 bedded of the ICU, then you should understand that probably he don't have any concept of the ICU management. Next. Now regarding the manpower, ICU manpower is very specific. Trained doctors, trained nurses, trained class 4 workers. So provision of the available resident doctor is a wrong answer, and it should not be the priority. Generally, it happens at all places. Even it happens at my place also. At the last moment, they will say that we are giving 4 doctors. I said, I don't want the 4 doctors. I want at least some sensible and trained doctors. So even 2 trained doctors will solve my problem rather than the 4 doctors from whichever the department they are pulling and sending me. In fact, that will add into my headache. Next. Again, regarding the nurses has to teamwork, skill work, and the self-care. There has to be the plan for self-care for everyone in ICU. If they do not have that plan, then that is not suitable for ICU environment. So this option is wrong. Dr. Sushma.
Which is not a common scoring system. Common scoring system आपल्या याच्यामध्ये कॉमन कुठली वापरत नाही. इथे हे तुम्ही प्रिंटिंग मिस्टेक झालेली आहे. SOP आहे तिथे SOP. So SOFA is used. Then Apache is used as a scoring system. Then SAPS is simplified acute physiological score. It is used, and SOP, that is the simplified other, is not been used. So D is the option, SOPA. It is the SOPs which are being available in the ICUs. They are the for to run the ICU properly. So they are not the scoring system. Okay, next 12. In assessment for all patient critically ill or otherwise, follow a format. So critically ill ला आपण अरेस्ट मध्ये जातो पेशंट, तेव्हा आपण बघितलं की A stands B. Compression will come first. Here it is A, B, C, D, E. So C is the answer. Airway, breathing, circulation, and disability. Okay. Central cyanosis. Central cyanosis is a dash sign of airway obstruction. So it is a late sign. So it is a late sign. जेव्हा सायनोसिस सेंट्रल डेव्हलप होतं म्हणजे टंगला दिसतो ब्लूइश कलर. So it is a late sign. A 25-year-old man injured RTA. He does not follow commands, but he does moans periodically. His left hand reaches. So हे ह्याच्यासाठी आपल्याला GCS स्कोर लागणार आहे. आता GCS स्कोर म्हणजे ही moans periodically. इनअप्रोप्रिएट V3 होतं आणि त्याच्यानंतर लेफ्ट हँड फ्लेक्शन आहे त्याला. सो 4 टोटल. सो अप्रॉक्सिमेटली 12 येतो स्कोर. 12. Nantar, a healthy young male is a motor vehicle crash is brought to ER with blood pressure of 84/60. GCS is 10. Patient moans when pelvis is palpated. आता जेव्हा RTA चा पेशंट येतो आणि ज्याच्या आपण प्रायमरी सर्वे करतो त्याच वेळेस किंवा through resuscitation, the next step in this should be you should apply a pelvic binder. जेव्हा प्रथमच तुम्हाला डायग्नोज होतं की you have patient has pelvic fracture, no further palpation should be done. Suppose त्याला आपण फिक्स करायचं आहे by applying a pelvic binder किंवा a pet sheet किंवा whatever a belt is available. ते लावल्यानंतर you are never, this will be your first step in management. ठीक. Thank you.
जे आपले रिसोर्स पर्सन आहेत जे इव्हेंट पर्सन आहेत त्यांना सांगू इच्छितो की सर आपली प्रेझेंटी जी होती किंवा जे मेडिकल ऑफिसर प्रेझेंट होते अक्रॉस द महाराष्ट्र इट वॉज 489 ऍट द पीक आवर. लिटल बिट रिड्यूस झाली नंतर शेवटी पण अप्रॉक्सिमेटली 450 to 500 मेडिकल ऑफिसर अटेंडेड दिस वेबिनार. आणि ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ दीज मेडिकल ऑफिसर्स आय थँक्स डॉक्टर कपिल सर and all other colleagues for attending this seminar. आणि एक रिक्वेस्ट अशी आहे की फ्युचर मध्ये अशा काही चांगल्या गोष्टी म्हणजे आम्हाला ह्या चांगल्या वाटतात तर ह्या गोष्टी करण्यासाठी आपला मदतीत हात सदैव पुढे राहील अशी अपेक्षा करतो सर.
Sir, we'll be very happy to participate in such educational CME. We have a good team and we all are always willing to take such educational activities. Which are the topic which are suitable to us?
Yes, sir. And
thank you, sir.
I must thank Dr. Harde sir for attending the webinar in person in SHRC.
Otherwise, it's a good thing, sir.
माझ्या आवडीचा विषय मी अॅनेस्थेटिस्ट असल्यामुळे मला याच्यात खूप इंटरेस्ट होता. कपिलचे ऐकायचं होतं मला बरेच दिवसात त्याच्याकडून काय ऐकलं. सर तुमचं
salute to your enthusiasm, sir. Salute to you.
Yes.
सॅल्यूट सर, सॅल्यूट. आमच्याकडून नाही सॅल्यूट. हे खरं तर स्टँडिंग ओवेशन दिलं असतं पण मी स्क्रीनच्या बाहेर जाईल म्हणून मी उठत नाही सर.
आम्हाला पण उभं राहायला सांगू नका सर.
थँक्यू एव्हरीबडी. आणि विथ युअर परमिशन
सर थँक्यू सर.
थँक्यू सर. थँक्यू.
थँक्यू सर.
थँक्यू.
हा माझे